Welcome to How to Play by Cathouse Gaming, where our goal is to explain the key game mechanics needed to get you and your table mates playing. We know you'd rather be gaming, so let's get started.
Hey guys, today's game is Ex Libris. Players are collectors of rare and valuable books vying for the newest seat on the village council, the Grand Librarian. The rules are simple. The collector with the best personal library is the one who gets the extremely lucrative job. Ex Libris is a worker placement game where players send their trusty assistants into the village in order to gather and organize their collections, keeping in mind the qualities upon which the mayor's official inspector will be judging. Game end is triggered when a player's library contains at least 16, 14, or 12 cards in a 2, 3, or 4-player game. A final round will be completed, then the mayor's official inspector visits everyone's library in order to determine who will become the Grand Librarian. Ex Libris does an excellent job of keeping the win conditions front and center. On the main board, you will find all of the criteria the mayor's official inspector will use to rank your personal libraries. The player with the most victory points wins the game. Identify the start player and provide him or her with the start player marker. Officially, this is the person who most recently acquired a book. Shuffle the 12 library tiles and deal out 2 per player. In reverse player order, each player chooses one to use and removes another one from the game. Acquire the special assistant token that matches the library card and 2 standard assistants of the same color. Please refer to pages 16 through 18 in the rulebook for questions regarding the special assistants. You can also choose to keep the game simpler by using only standard assistants, in which case, skip the library tile selection phase and instead play using the back of any library tile and use 3 standard assistants of the same color. Place the town board in the center of the table. Shuffle the 6 category cards and place 2 on the board, 1 for the prominent works, the other for banned books. Lastly, deal 1 to each player as their specific focus. Keep it secret, keep it safe. Go through the location tiles and pull out the one labeled the Diviner's Hut. Place it under the town board. Shuffle the remaining locations and deal out 1 per player, including the Diviner's Hut, so 4 total tiles in a 4-player game. Shuffle all the book cards and deal 6 to each player as their starting hand. Place the remaining cards near the village. Take a look at the cards in your hand. They're all laid out in the same manner. The bulk of the card is comprised of books with witty book titles, but all of the important bits are located on the top row. In the top left is the letter of the alphabet to which these books belong, and just under the letter is their numerical placement within that letter. Refer to your library card to see how many books are available for each letter of the alphabet. The remainder of the top row shows the categories to which the pictured books belong. There are 6 categories: corrupted codices, fantastical fictions, historical volumes, monster manuals, reference text, and spells and potions. 1 of these is a prominent work, 1 is a banned book, and 1 is your library's focus. It will be important to identify these symbols and collect books within the appropriate categories. In regards to shelving of books within your library, please note that the initial card placed in the library can be considered to be on any row within your shelf, including the topmost row. New books must be placed orthogonally to previously placed cards. Your shelf may never exceed 3 rows in height. However, a library of 1 or 2 rows is also acceptable and potentially advantageous. Village tiles always limit the number of players who can visit each tile. This is indicated by the number of gnome heads on a given tile. Library tiles can only be visited by the player who owns the library. Sending an assistant to your library allows you to either place a card from your hand into your library or draw additional cards into your hand. Sending an assistant to a village tile allows you to perform a variety of actions, including becoming the start player, but in general, the actions are going to allow players to obtain and place a card within your library or move cards within your library. A full description of each of the village tiles is contained in the rulebook on pages 11 through 15. The text on the tiles can be challenging to read, so consider reading it aloud to all of the players at the beginning of the round and obtaining player aids from BoardGameGeek. A link to the player aid we use can be found in the description. Each round in Ex Libris is comprised of 4 different phases: preparation, placement, resolution, and cleanup. In the preparation phase, flip over the number of village tiles equal to the number of players and check them to see if they require preparation. This usually involves seeding the tile with book cards prior to gameplay. The 4 tiles have already been selected for the first round. Next is the placement phase, where players take turns in player order, sending their assistants to various village locations or to the player's own library. Lightning bolts indicate that the action is to be completed immediately. This is always the case for library actions. Once all players have placed all of their assistants, they move into the resolution phase. During this phase, all village tiles with delayed effects are resolved in numerical order, beginning with the Diviner's Hut. Once resolved, discard any remaining book cards and retrieve all assistants. Last is the cleanup phase. Identify which of the village spaces has the lowest number. In the first round, this will be the Diviner's Hut. Move this tile into the section on the town board labeled Permanent Locations. Place the remaining village tiles used in the round into a discard pile. If you ever run out, the discard pile is shuffled to form a new draw pile. As part of the cleanup phase, check each player's library to see if they have created a sufficiently large enough library to trigger endgame. If so, the next round will be the final round. Endgame is triggered when a player meets or exceeds the library size for the number of players. One more round is completed, and then the mayor's official inspector visits everyone's bookshelf in order to determine who will become the Grand Librarian. The person with the best handwriting moonlights as the official inspector and takes up the official form to calculate everyone's score. Before scoring begins, players can choose to voluntarily flip over any card in their bookshelf. This can be helpful as the scoring of alphabetical order could result in a more desirable card being flipped purely on alphabetical order rather than how the entire game is scored.
Here's an example of what your library may look like at game end. The first thing the inspector will verify is alphabetical order. Are all of the cards in both alphabetical and numeric order? If not, the cards that do not fit are flipped over. Once this is done, a check is added to the A1 of the inspection form. At this point, players can count the number of books their library contains of each category. This information goes on into section A2 of the form. Section B is next, which contains all scoring elements, starting with shelf stability and ending with library focus. In this case, the bookworm earns 12 points for shelf stability as their largest rectangle is 4x3 and each card is worth 1 point. We can't determine the prominence works bonus until all of the players have provided their information, so we'll come back to this. The bookworm loses 4 points for having 4 banned books in their library. Banned books in this game were spells and potions. They receive a variety bonus of 9. This is determined by their lowest category, in this case monster manuals, and multiplied by 3. And they receive 22 points for their library focus, as they have 11 reference texts in their library and the multiplier is 2. In this game, corrupted codices were the prominent works. Gelatinous Cube had the most corrupted codices in her library and is therefore awarded 15 points. Snowman had the second most and earns 9. Bookworm is in third place and earns 4 points, while the Ghost receives none. Once Section B has been completed, the numbers from Section B are summed and placed in Section C. The winner is the person with the highest score. That's a wrap, you guys. You now know how to play Ex Libris. Good luck, and may the best librarian win.